Hi everybody. I'd like to do two things today. First thing I'd like to do is take a look at some sandbanks where I plan on going next week. And the second thing I'd like to do is to let you know that I want to change the channel name. I want to change it to Sailing because I love it. Simply because I do. Okay, this is the sort of plan. I want to go down here to Anglesey to a bay called Red Wharf Bay. It's a good flat sand bay. But the sands shift a lot during the winter, so I wanted to go down and have a look at these sands before I actually went down there. This is Red Wharf Bay. So as you can see, there's a lot of sand there. Over towards the most northerly corner of the bay here is the normal way in. The normal way in has this black line in it. Can you see the black line? This is stones. And it's also probably the deepest bit because they've been washed clean. But this may have moved to here now, or even over here now, I don't know. Now I've walked along this bit here, taking little waypoints as I go, so I know where the edge is. So I know if I stay close to the edge, I should be okay, and it should get me into this area here, where if you drop your anchor, you'll get good holding very quickly normally. Now I'm going to do this recce because the sands do move, and normally at Red Wharf Bay during the season they normally have a little bit of a buoyage system out to show you where they've moved to. But there's no buoyage out at the moment, and I actually want to come here next week because it's a good place to dry out locally. So the simple method I use is to walk to the water's edge. When I get to the water's edge, I look for any obstructions like rocks or anything like that might worry me in the water, and if there's nothing, I'm fine. I just put a mark on the GPS. I'm extremely sorry about the wind noise that's about today, but it's blowing its socks off. It's not meant to be. It's another one of them days there's meant to be around 20 knots, but instead it's pushing 40. Well, this is the water's edge, as you can see. Sandbanks across the way there, and this is like a little river that runs in. So I go to my telephone, and all as I do is I've got iSailor fitted on my telephone, and I put a mark on him. Put that mark on there, and I know this was where the bank started. Well, I've been doing that since back where you can see now, so that I've got an idea of the shape at the end just here. There's a little bit of a sandbank in the middle there, but sandbanks don't offend me much because if I want to dry out and I touch one where I want to be, I'm alright. It's down there which is going to be worse, working all that bit out because I've got to walk out to the end of these little bits of sand to get a good path. So that's exactly what I do. I just walk along, and every bit which sort of sticks out a bit further than any others, then I just put a mark on it. And if I see some rocks that are sticking out a bit further, I often walk out to one of them rocks and put a mark by where the rock is, and I just know that the bank is to the port when I'm coming in and the rocks are to my starboard when I'm coming in. It's about a 15-metre gap really you've got to sail down, which is ample enough to get the boat to go down, hopefully. Most of what you can see is very progressive, which is a very good thing anyway for when you're coming in. Although you can see there's at least a metre on that bank opposite me, it's still progressive getting up there, so you'd watch the depth sounder would be changing as you went. Well, I walk up here just banging the waypoints on one by one until I get to where I consider to be the end or the opening to deep water. Well, this is about the end of the bank just here ahead of me. Way out there I can see a yellow outfall marker, so that's a good starting point for coming in. And this is the opposite side of the sandbank, where it starts up on the other side, but you can see the water goes deep just after that very quickly as it changes colour from sandy water. Just take a look at the power of the wind shoving that sand stream along. Well, there's tons and tons of sand moving along the air there, and this is why the sandbanks move, because all that sand's going to end up at the other end of the bank. The same thing can happen on the opposite side of the bank. The sands can build up there, but then the tidal stream can often take it away there and dump it somewhere else afterwards. And of course the tide brings the sand back into the bay, which keeps the bay filled with sand. Never ending shifting sands, I suppose. And those sands really are shifting. If you went and took some rusty old metal over and dumped it in that, it'd soon have it stripped clean. And the dog's been blown out of his jacket. Ooh, and I bet you that water's not too warm either. Don't want to be blown over today. This is about where the mooring area starts. The odd little buoys you see sticking up are the floaters on the end of chains and pickup lines and what have you. And where these odd couple of boats are just back here, there seems to be nice and flat. So that's sort of the area that I'll head for next week, knowing that it's nice and flat. Because if you end up in one of these funny areas where there's a ridge, you could end up tipping off your legs, and we don't want that, do we? Yeah, so it might look sheltered around that corner just there, but it's a bit up and down for a set of legs to go down, where this does look a lovely flat sandy shelf. Well, I'm sorry there's been no sailing today, but without today I wouldn't get to sail next week. All the waypoints I saved on my telephone were on iSailor, and as you can see, each one of them's landed on more or less on a black dotted line that iSailor had already put on the chart. So maybe I shouldn't have bothered with today, and I should have just followed iSailor's black line in. But at least I know that line is correct. Bon voyage!